What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be going over how to create gegenpressing or pressing tactics within FM24 if that is the style that you wish to either try out or that you want to implement in your sides. There are two styles of football that absolutely dominate the footballing landscape right now, and that is either possession style like Pep Guardiola or gegenpressing like Jurgen Klopp. Both very, very good. I myself, though, prefer gegenpressing. And why do I prefer gegenpressing? We're about to find out. So when you load up a save, you obviously have to make your tactic. And here we are at the choose a tactical style screen. We're going to go ahead and click on gegenpress. I will let you know right now that the game actually does make some pretty good default tactics. So if you aren't sure how you want to go about your gegenpressing style, definitely suggest trying out one of the default ones and then kind of mix and match how you wish to get it to exactly how you want it to play out. Right here, as you can see, there is the little diagram that they do for all of the different tactics, which is pretty cool. But over here, we have the description of gegenpress. Gegenpressing relies on every player in the team working hard and above all else being fit and mobile enough to press the opposition immediately after losing the ball. So right there, immediately you know that you need high natural fitness in your players, good stamina, and for them to be pretty quick to an extent. Also right here in the diagram, you can see what the gegenpressing really does look like, and it does play out like this in game as well. But also up here, it does suggest three different formations that gegenpressing will work quite well with. That is the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, or the 4-2-4. And when you go in to figure out what formation you are going to use, it does suggest some rules that they think, okay, if you implement this, you should do pretty well. And I can tell you each of them will do pretty well. The 4-3-3 is very good, and personally I prefer playing gegenpressing with a 4-3-3. I feel that it gets the most out of it. The 4-2-3-1 is also pretty darn good, but one that can be very, very overpowered if you are doing it correctly is the 4-2-4. You can outright dominate everyone and basically win every trophy at your disposal. So I went ahead, created one of those default tactics, and this is what it recommends right here. You can see all of the player roles. You have a pressing forward, which obviously pressing is in the name. It's going to be good in a gegenpress. Also, the advanced forward is pretty good in a gegenpress system as well, but you'll see that in a moment. And it does have instructions over here on the left, as well as it changed the mentality, but it does not have instructions on the players. So keep that in mind. If you decide to use a default system, you will have to kind of implement what you want the player to do individually at times. But we're going to talk about the mentality here with a gegenpress system. Positive and attacking is most definitely the best to go with. Balanced is also pretty good if you are one of the smaller sides within your league. So if you are like projected to finish bottom 3, bottom 4, balance is probably the way to go. Maybe push it to positive, but attacking I wouldn't try just yet. You got to build up to that. But if you are a side that's supposed to finish mid-table or top 4, top 6, top 3, even win the league, definitely feel free to go positive or attacking with a gegenpressing system. And you're all probably wondering, does the mentality really truly affect a gegenpress system? Because gegenpressing is more of a defensive aspect. It does, because it allows you to keep that same intensity the entire time, which is exactly what you want. You want high intensity, heavy metal football, which is what Jurgen Klopp is great at Liverpool. And we're going to take a quick look at all the recommendations that it has on this default tactic for the instructions. So playing out from the defense, that is pretty common sense. You definitely want to play out from the defense, especially if your team is able to do so. And you have that higher tempo. Either go slightly higher or higher tempo. That is my recommendation. If you want to go with a slightly safer gegenpress, you go slightly higher. But if you want to go all out, all in on the system, you definitely go higher. In transition, these are the two most important things: counter press and counter. You want to be able to see the ball, get the ball, move. That is what you want to do, and you do it as an entire team. It's not just a couple players. Once you have possession, your entire team goes. And then out of possession is also pretty important as well. High press line of engagement and a higher defensive line. as well as much more often trigger press. Once again, if you want to go a little bit safer route, go more often, but much more often trigger press definitely is what I suggest. And you want to prevent that short goalkeeper distribution. Having a pressing forward will definitely help you do that, whether it's on attack, support, and or defend. And step up the line, the defensive line that is. You can utilize that. Obviously, this is suggesting to do so. I prefer not to because I feel like my defense gets caught out more when I do use that. So the higher defensive line I feel is okay without step up more. But if you really want to, I guess the best way to put it is how Unai Emery this season has been playing his defensive line with Villa. That is kind of what they do. They play higher up the pitch and they step up even more, kind of keeping the team nice and compact. If that is what you want to do, definitely feel free to do that, but I do suggest just doing the higher defensive line. So another one of those formations was the 4-2-4. This is how I like to play a 4-2-4. It is asymmetric, so it says it's a 4-1-1-4. However, we can all see it's 4-2-4. Utilized this system last year in FM23. It was absolutely ridiculous. It's very, very good again this year. But the one thing that is very important about this system in the way that this plays with a 4-2-4, you definitely want to have a ball-winning midfielder and a playmaker in central midfield so that your attack can kind of just do what they want. And another thing that is very, very good within a 4-2-4 is a pressing forward on support. With the 4-2-4 that it recommends by default, it has a pressing forward on support, so the game knows what's up. It knows that it's good. The pressing forward on support is a very interesting role because usually pressing forwards like staying forward. Pressing forward on support does drop back a little bit. I noticed that a lot last year in FM23. It still does the same thing in FM24, which is awesome because they're kind of like a ball-winning midfielder just further up. That's how I kind of see the pressing forward on support. And they bang you in loads of goals. So they see the ball, they get the ball, they move it on, or they try and score themselves. And one of the best wombo combos you can have as a striker pair is advanced forward on attack with a pressing forward on support. So the 4-2-4 definitely is one that really helps you kind of capitalize on a gegenpressing system. And if you are to utilize a 4-2-4 type system, you obviously will probably either have your wingers staying out wide and you have inverted wing backs so that they cut inside and underlap, or you have them to the outside, you have inverted wingers, and then your wing backs overlap. So this is kind of how it is set up while in possession, of course with that higher tempo. In transition, same thing as the default tactic, except I have distribute quickly into the defense. And then out of possession, the only thing that would be different there is the step up more. That is what I took off. And then when it comes to the 4-3-3, I actually created a tactic kind of meant for gegenpressing, meant for heavy metal football. I'll be linking that video down below in the description if you guys want to check it out. And it's kind of based around how Liverpool play in reality. It's got that inverted wingback. It's got Mo Salah being able to occupy any space that he wants. It's got a very good midfield trio with an advanced playmaker on attack, ball-winning midfielder on support, and a halfback on defend who will drop back to kind of play like a back three. This is definitely, in my opinion, the way to go with a gegenpressing system or a pressing system in general. You definitely want to try out a 4-3-3 before you try out anything else. In my opinion, it is the safest route to go. And like I said, if you want to check out that tactic in depth, I'll be linking that video down below in the description for you all to check out after this video. But now we get to utilize one of my favorite tools for doing tactics with FM. We're going to be going over to tacticalboard.com. And we're not going over how it builds up in play, which is usually what I do with this. We're going with how the gegenpressing system works so that you can really see how your team is going to react to losing the ball and winning it back. So here we have the Liverpool 11 that I had set up versus a bunch of white dots right here. So they currently have the ball with their keeper. They're going to move that to their left center back. Nunez sees that ball moving. He's the pressing forward, whether it's a pressing forward on attack, an advanced forward, a complete forward. They're going to know in a gegenpressing system that they need to win that ball back. So he's going to close down on that center back. McAllister is going to step up. Mo Salah is going to close in. McAllister just took away a pass to one of the central midfielders. Mo Salah took away the pass to the wingback, and Nunez is putting pressure onto the center back. So two things will happen. Either Nunez is going to force the ball off of the center back, or he will be able to complete this pass here to the defensive midfielder. However, McAllister is quick enough to where he can cover both players, and Mo Salah can as well kind of drop in if needed. Endo will also come up. Szoboszlai, Diaz. As you can see what is happening, the entire team shifts a little bit towards where the ball is. However, the 2 to 3 most closest players are going to be those ones that will most likely win the ball back for you. Now, say they do get that pass off to the defensive midfielder, and the ball ends up right here. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Endo, Van Dijk, Robertson, Konate, Trent. There is really nowhere for that 6 to move the ball. So he is going to have to either move it back to the central defender that just moved him the ball, or to the opposite one. And guess what will probably happen? You got Nunez here being a poacher for that ball to intercept. He'll get that ball, go in, and probably score or hit the post, which he likes to do a lot in reality. So that is how the gegenpress works when you are winning the ball back and trying to go on the counter. However, it will look different with different formations, obviously. That is how it looks with a 4-3-3 if you're using the 4-2-4, or if you're using 4-2-3-1, you're playing a 5 in the back gegenpress. However you go about it, that is going to look different dependent on the formation, obviously. But one thing that we can all tell from that is that it suffocates your opponent. If they want the ball, they're probably not going to have a high possession stat when they are playing against a gegenpressing system, because you are going to want that ball. You are okay with the other team having the ball, but as soon as you get that ball, you obviously want to possess it as much as you can and then try and get a goal from it. However, there are two different types of gegenpressing styles. There's the Jurgen Klopp style, and there's the Red Bull style. Liverpool, when they are gegenpressing, they get the ball and then they like having the ball. The Red Bull style is they get the ball and then they just try and counterattack. They're okay with their opponent having the ball as much as they want, because they know at the end of the day they're going to beat them. A great example is my hometown team, St. Louis City. They are a team that likes to let their opponent have the ball, and they still win plenty of games by doing that because the gegenpressing system works so darn well. Now, one thing real quick that I want to highlight is what are the best attributes to be looking for when you are trying to have a team that is really freaking good at gegenpressing. We're going to be looking at Mr. Wataru Endo right here. So he's got that high stamina, which we need. He's got that high natural fitness, which we once again need. He's not the quickest, but that is why we have him playing defensive midfield, or he would be playing a defensive style. He has a high work rate, which you definitely want in a gegenpress style, because if you have a high work rate, great stamina, great natural fitness, they're going to be able to run for days for you. And then there are three very underrated attributes here, in my opinion, for a gegenpressing style. Teamwork, which he has 19 of 20, positioning, and concentration. If you are able to have players that are great in all those areas that I just mentioned, which I'll be popping up all of it on screen right now for you, so that you can take a screenshot if you need to for trying to find those perfect players for a gegenpressing system. This is going to allow you to always have players that are able to win the ball, move the ball, counter for you. That is kind of how gegenpressing really has its success, is when you have players like Wataru Endo who can just do anything they need for you. They are your destroyers. And how Endo is kind of built, that's kind of what you want for your central midfielders. When it comes to your attackers, you want a Mo Salah. You want a player that is rapid. You want a player with good agility. Also still has that natural fitness and high stamina, but they have good vision, good work rate, good teamwork, maybe even good off the ball. Because if you have a pressing forward that is good off the ball, they're going to kind of play like a Harry Kane on steroids. And when it comes to your defenders, there's going to be two players that I highlight really quickly. So Virgil van Dijk, you definitely want your central defenders to kind of be built like him. Great mental wise, be very smart players. Also be able to dribble the ball a little bit because you don't want them coughing up the ball. Great at marking and tackling, have a little bit of pace and strength to them, but you want them to be able to move the ball. He has some decent vision and some great passing, but he also has a good player trait, which is tries long range passes. If you can find a center back that is able to do things like Virgil van Dijk, you are going to be able to capitalize on a lot of turnovers from your defense. And by turnovers, I mean them winning possession of the ball. And then the other point that I wanted to highlight was Andy Robertson. If you can have your wingbacks or fullbacks kind of like how he is, you are going to be unstoppable. Those are kind of the four archetypes that you want. You want to have an Andy Robertson who has incredible mentals, good physicals, some pretty decent technicals as well. You also want a Virgil van Dijk. You also want a Wataru Endo and a Mo Salah. If you can kind of build your players around like that for a gegenpressing system, they're going to be absolutely ridiculous for you. And once again, so that you guys have that available to you, I'll be putting the player archetypes up on screen right now so you guys can take a screenshot, do whatever you need to do for that as well. So all in all, what have we learned here today? Gegenpressing is a fantastic way to play the game. You suffocate your opponents. And speaking of suffocating your opponents, on my previous tactic video like this, my previous tactic guide, I talked about opposition instructions that really help you capitalize on suffocating your opponent. And if you coupled that with this, it'd be absolutely ridiculous. We also learned that there are player archetypes that you want to utilize to help capitalize your gegenpressing system to the max. And the last thing was those default formations that we can kind of hit the ground running with, that being the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, or the 4-2-4, kind of get to grips with how a gegenpressing system works and then kind of expand your knowledge on it by trying out different formations with it. I do suggest going with one of those three for your first time using a gegenpressing system, or just in general, because in my opinion, those are definitely the best. The game agrees as well. If you do want to use certain roles, we did talk about that as well, such as the pressing forward, either on attack, support, or defend. They're all very viable. However, the attack and support duty are the best. And also, don't forget about that ball winning midfielder. That is the most important role in your midfield. So there we have it. If you happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so when I hit that sub button, I did another video kind of like this one, just for tactics in general. If you'd like to check that out, I'll be popping that up on screen right now, or you can check out all my videos that I've done for FM24 this year so far. I'll be doing more videos like this in the future, covering all the different styles that you can play, and I'm pretty sure next up will be possession type tactics. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified when I post videos, and you'll get notified when that video comes out. But everyone, until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.